Picture this, it's the 1950s and Havana, Cuba, is a glittering paradise of glamour, excess, and gambling. The streets buzz with classic cars, the casinos overflow with high rollers, and the nightlife never stops. At the heart of it all is Meyer Lansky, a notorious mobster known as the mob's accountant. This is the story of how he built a $1 billion gambling empire in Havana, and how Fidel Castro's revolution brought it crashing down. Meyer Lansky wasn't your average gangster. Born in 1902 to Jewish immigrants, he rose from the tough streets of New York to become a mastermind of the American mafia. He didn't muscle his way to power, he calculated it. Lansky helped turn organized crime into a business, and by the 1950s he was looking for his next big score: Cuba. Cuba, under dictator Fulgencio Batista, was a mobster's dream. Just 90 miles from Florida, it had a corrupt government willing to turn a blind eye to gambling, prostitution, and anything else that brought in cash. Lansky saw the potential and pounced. He built and ran some of Havana's most extravagant casinos like the Hotel Nacional and the Riviera, a $14 million masterpiece with over 400 rooms and a casino floor that screamed luxury. Havana became the Las Vegas of the Caribbean. Frank Sinatra crooned in the clubs, Hollywood stars like Ava Gardner partied with mobsters, and tourists flocked to roll the dice. Lansky's empire wasn't just a few slot machines, it was a billion-dollar operation, fueled by gambling, tourism, and a steady flow of dirty money. For Lansky, it was the peak of his power, but while Havana sparkled, a storm was brewing. In the Cuban countryside, Fidel Castro, a fiery young lawyer, led a growing revolution. He vowed to overthrow Batista, end corruption, and kick out the foreigners profiting off Cuba. To Castro, Lansky's casinos weren't just businesses, they were symbols of American greed exploiting his country. On New Year's Eve 1958, the endgame began. Batista fled Cuba as Castro's rebels closed in. Havana erupted in chaos. Furious mobs trashed Lansky's casinos, smashing slot machines and looting anything they could grab. The party was over, and Lansky's empire was on the ropes. In 1959, Castro took power and swung the axe. He nationalized all foreign-owned businesses, including every casino in Havana. Gambling? Banned outright. Lansky's $1 billion empire evaporated overnight. The Riviera, the National, all seized by the state. The mob's golden goose was cooked. Lansky had no choice but to flee. The man who dodged the FBI for decades couldn't dodge a revolution. He later quipped, "I crapped out," a gambler's way of saying he'd lost it all. For the American mafia, it was a gut punch. Cuba had been their playground, and now it was gone. But the story doesn't end there. With Cuba off limits, the mob pivoted. They poured their money into Las Vegas, turning a dusty desert town into the gambling capital of the world. In a twist of fate, Castro's revolution helped birth modern Vegas. Talk about an unintended consequence. Today, Havana's casinos are relics of a wild past. The Riviera and Hotel Nacional still stand, but they're shadows of their former glory. Meyer Lansky's Cuban gamble was his greatest triumph and his biggest bust. It's a tale of ambition, revolution, and the high stakes of playing against history.